Hi, this is Ali Arango for Game Visuals. What you're going to be shown how to do today is how to take this 3D animated character and turn this into 8 angles of isometric 2D sprites using Blender 2.82a. So let's get started. If you would like to get this animated 3D character mesh, what you can do is go to littleguyscgi.com, go to the assets section, and you can download this for free so you can work your way through this tutorial using this same asset. Thanks for watching. Hi, this is Ali Arango for Game Visuals, and today I would like to show you how to turn a 3D character animation into 2D sprites in Blender 2.82a. So let's get started. Okay, what you see in front of you is a mech that I made in Blender that has an animation on it. So if I select play, you can see the animation there. I'll put links up so you can get to the tutorials where I show how to make this mech as well as how to animate it. Okay, if you're brand new to Blender, if you look to your upper right, if you left click and hold here, you can rotate your view. If you left click over this plus symbol and move up, you can zoom in. If you move down, you can zoom out. If you left click and drag over this hand, you can pan your view. If you select the camera, you can go into camera view. And then if you click the next button down, you can go into orthographic view. Okay, one of the things I like to do with working with views is I'm going to press the N key to bring up this menu that you see on the right here. And what we're going to do is go to View. And I'm going to go down to this 3D navigation. You can see this view here that has the different views, front, left, top. I like to set this up because this is useful to quickly switch between the views if you don't have a number keypad. If you had a number keypad, there is another way to switch to views. However, I recommend you use these views right here. This 3D navigation you see, to have that, you need to go to Edit, Preferences, go to Add-ons. These are all add-ons that are built into Blender. And you'll see this 3D view, colon 3D navigations. Put a check mark next to that. Okay, the technique that you're learning today is particularly useful for when you want to have isometric sprites. To draw up isometric sprites yourself tends to take a lot of time and effort. This is a way that you can fairly easily get isometric sprites for wherever you would like to use those sprites at. Okay, to work your way through this method, one of the things you're going to want to do is to split your view. So what you're going to do is go to the upper left-hand corner, right? And you see my mouse pointer, how it looks like a point. There is an area right on the corner here. So here is the Blender logo. And then you have this button here, this button here. It doesn't even look like a button. It's like 4 millimeters to the left of my mouse. It's a slight bend, right? This is how you set up splitting the view, or the way I prefer to split up the view. So as I move my mouse pointer, right now it's just a mouse pointer, you'll see that plus right there? So that plus lets me know that I'm over top of this little, it's kind of like a little triangular shape. I lost it, now I'm over top of it again. So you can tell you're over top of it because your mouse pointer will turn to a plus button. Then you're going to right click, then you're going to select, after you see this area options menu pop up, you're going to select vertical split, left click there. And then you have this line. And what this line is allowing us to do is, as soon as I click this, which I haven't done yet, the view is going to split. So I just left click. So now we have this additional view right here. Okay, in this additional view, we don't need this menu. So we're going to press the N key for now. Okay, what we're going to do is go to this window here. In Blender, it's important where your mouse is over, because where your mouse is over will affect your shortcuts in Blender. What we want to do is go to this camera button and then left click on it. And this box represents our camera. However, we're too close to our mesh. So we're going to press the N key. We're going to go to view, and then we're going to look to where we see this lock camera to view. We're going to put a check mark there. I'm going to move my mouse over, from away from this menu here. I'm going to press the N key. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll my mouse wheel back. And that lock camera to view just allows me to zoom in and out from this camera view here. Okay, so now that the zoom is at a decent level, we're going to press the N key, go back to that lock camera to view, and then we're going to take away that check mark. Then I'm going to press the N key again to take away that menu. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to select the edge of this rectangle, which represents our camera. If you select and don't see anything, see these two circles here? You're going to left click there, and that turns on the things that normally don't render in Blender. When you turn on Blender, that's on by default. I had this off when I started the tutorial, but this is normally on by default, like things like the grid, the rig. You would normally see that when you first turned on Blender. Okay, like I had mentioned previously, when you open up Blender, I said turn on, I meant open up, you'll typically see these different things. When I started the tutorial off, I just had these two circles turned off. Anyway, what you want to do is select the edge of this rectangle, which is your camera. You want to look to your right, and you'll see the camera button. Select that. You're going to look to type, where you'll see perspective. Your camera is going to be in this by default. You're going to select the arrow to the right. You're then going to select orthographic. You're going to go to this menu here. You're going to go to item. This is the N menu. So if you don't see this, press the N key while you're hovered over this window, and you'll see this window. And what you want to do is look to these settings here. These are your camera settings. For where you see X, you want to change this to 12. For this Y, you want to change this to -12. For the Z, you want to change this to 12. For the rotation, for the X setting, you want to change this to 54.8. I'll press enter. For the Y, you want to just leave this at 0. And then for the Z, you want to set this to 45. Okay, what we want to do now is set our camera resolution. So we're going to go to the, not all the way to the right, but to the right. Looks like the back of a camera. We're going to select here. So we're currently in Eevee. We actually want to go to the next one down. It looks like a printer. This is where we can set our resolution up. Currently, our resolution is set for standard high definition resolution. We're going to change this to 300 by 300. Okay, so you can see when you look at the camera, now we have a square camera, which is what we want. What we're going to do is look towards the right, select the camera button, and we're going to look to this orthographic scale. And what we're going to do is left click and drag this to the right. If you want to do fine selection, you can use the shift button. And what we're trying to do is to move this, adjust our camera so that our mech is in view, but can go through its full animation. So I'll select play. You see how the mech is, the one frame is coming out of the animation. So I'm going to left click, go back more. So we can see right here, when I stopped it, the camera is right on the edge there. So what I can do is I can go to this Shift X. So I'm going to left click and drag and just get our mech more so it's in the center view. So I'm going to right click to go back further. I'll left click. Okay, this is good for now. By the way, when we select the play button, if I look to the right and I select, you can see that this. Okay, what we're going to do now is look to the two circles in the left-hand window. We're going to turn them off. We're going to go to the right window and turn the two circles on. You can see the 3D cursor is right in the center of our mesh. That's what we want because where the 3D cursor is in Blender is where objects tend to come into Blender at. Okay, what we want to do now is bring an empty in. So the empty should come in right to where that 3D cursor is at. So I'm going to hold Shift, press A. This brings up our Add To menu. And then we're going to go down to Empty. I'm going to select an empty cube. So the empty should be in there. I'm going to press S to scale this up. So there's the empty right there. Okay, the reason why we brought this empty in is so that we could have the camera aim at this empty. It's better to have the empty be brought in and be centered on our character mesh with the mesh, with the rig on it, rather than having the camera aim directly at our character mesh. This is because by having the camera aim at the empty, we can make small adjustments if we need to. Okay, the way we have the setup here also, we have this window here, which will more represent our final result. In this window here, we can freely rotate as well as work without affecting this view. So this is a nice way to work, I think. Okay, so what we want to do now is have the camera aim directly at the empty. So to do that, we're going to select the camera. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to this button towards the right, which is our constraint button. So we see Add Object Constraint. We're going to select the arrow. And then what we're going to do is select a Track To constraint. Okay, with this Track To constraint, what we're going to do is we're going to take this eyedropper, and then we're going to select the empty. And we can see that the camera moved. Don't let that concern you. So what we're going to do now is where we see this 2, we're going to go to -Z. And then where we see this up, we're going to change this to Y. Okay, the reason why we set up that constraint is so now when we move the camera is always going to aim at that empty. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to bring in a curved circle. So I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom back. I'm going to hold Shift, press A. This brings up our Add To menu. I'm going to go to Curve and then Circle. So if you look to the right, you can see that the circle came in. You can't see it here. However, it is selected. That's why in the right, you can see this is highlighted here, this Bezier circle. So with this selected, I'm going to press S to scale, and then I'm going to press 8-0, and then press Enter to lock that in. Okay, and as far as me scaling this up, I brought it in, and it was selected when I brought it in. If for some reason it wasn't selected, you could either select the circle up here, or you could zoom in and select the circle. And if 8-0 doesn't work for you, or scaling 8-0 doesn't work, just scale the circle up so it's about like this. So I'm going to roll the mouse wheel to zoom in some now. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to select the camera. This is important here. I'm then going to hold Shift, and then while holding Shift, select the curved circle. I'm letting go of Shift. Now I'm going to hold Control, press P. This brings up our Set Parent menu. And then I'm going to select Follow Path. Okay, now the camera is parented to this circle. However, there is one thing that's going to happen that we don't want. When I select play, you can see that the camera moves. We don't want that. Also, when you look to the left, you can see that the mesh is starting to fade out. So what we can do is select the camera and then select the button for the camera. And then you want to look to where you see this clip start and clip end. You want to just take this slider up, and then you should be able to see you can see your full mesh right here. Okay. As far as the camera moving around when we press play, which we don't want, what you want to do is select on the curve, look to the curve button, which looks like this green, I guess, curve. And then you'll see path animation. You want to select the arrow here. And then you'll see these frames. This says a 0. you want to select this and then change this to 0, and then I'll press enter. Okay, what that did is now when I select play, you can see that now the camera doesn't rotate anymore, which is what we want. Okay, we're setting this up to make isometric sprites. When you look right here in this view, we don't have an isometric, what I would think of as an isometric view. So what you want to do is, with the curve selected, we're going to go to the move tool and we're going to move this up. And just by moving this circle up, you can see that we can see more of an isometric view. The mesh is starting to disappear again, so I'll select the camera. I'll go to this end and I'll take this up. Okay, I'm going to roll my mouse wheel back. I'm going to select this curve and I'm going to take this up even more. And again, you can take this in all the way. I'm just going to raise this up even more. So this is more, I'm going to take this even more. I'm going to roll my mouse to zoom back. Yeah, the way that is, let's see. Select the camera again. I like this view right here. Okay, you can always adjust that later as well. So with the camera selected, what I'm going to do now is I want to move this more to the center. So I'm going to go to Shift X and then drag to the right like that. Okay, I want to give some more area around the character so they can move. So with the camera selected, I'm going to go to orthographic view and move to the right. About like that. Okay, so we have the cube, the empty cube on the character. So once you have this all set up, you could take another character, however you want the scale of that character to be, and then put that character right where that empty cube is set up. And then this setup, we still have more work to do, but this setup will work for that character as well. So you would be able to make multiple isometric sprites. So what I'm going to recommend you do now is select on this mesh curve. And then for the location here, this is the end panel. If you don't see this, when I press the end, that goes away. I press the end key, this comes back. These locks here, we can lock this curve so that it won't move up and down. And the only way that we want this curve to rotate is on the z-axis. So we can lock these other axes as well. And we can lock the scale as well. So now this curve will only rotate on the z-axis, which is what we want. Okay, for this tutorial, what we're trying to do is we're trying to have 8 angles that have the sprites for the character. So in other words, we want to have angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, angle 4, angle 5, angle 6, angle 7, angle 8. Okay. The way you get the numbers for all of those angles is you take 360 and you divide that by 8, and that will give you 45. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going to go to this Z rotation. I'm going to select this, and I'm going to enter in the number 45 and then press enter. Okay, what we want to do now is we're going to go to the button that looks like the back of a camera. So this is the second button from the top towards the right. You're going to go down to where you see film. And then what you're going to do is you're going to look to where you see transparent. You're going to put a check mark next to that transparent. Okay, with that done, what we want to do now is we're going to go to, looks like a printer. And we're going to go to where we see output. So we're going to make sure that we have this PNG. This is by default, this is set up for PNG. This is set for RGBA. This will give you transparent pictures, which is what you want. We're going to select this folder. For what I'm doing, I'm going to go to Documents, Temp. And then I'm going to go to this folder I have here named 2D Isometric Sprite Angles. I'm going to double click there. This button right here gives us a new folder. So I'm going to name this angle 1. Make another one, angle 2. Angle 3. Angle 4. Angle 5. Angle 6. Angle 7. Angle 8. So now I have these 8 folders. Now these are important because you're not going to name your files. You're going to let Blender name your files. And then what you're going to do is you're going to select angle 1 and then select accept. Okay, with that set up, what we're going to do is with this curve selected, I'm going to select play. I'm going to press R to rotate on the Z axis. And I'm just seeing if our animation comes close to the side, and it doesn't look like it does. So with that being the case, what we can do is select our camera, go to the camera button, go to orthographic view, and then we can zoom in some. So now we'll select play again, and then I'll press R to rotate on the Z axis. Oops, wrong thing, I'm on the camera. On the curve, R to rotate on the Z axis. And I'm just looking to make sure that the mesh stays in view. It looks like it's good. So I right click just to go back to before I start to move. I'll come down here and I'll pause this. Okay, what you want to do now is go to what looks like the printer. Make sure you're on, when you're selected on the curve, this Z says 45. The reason why you have this set for 45 is just so you can go plus 45, plus 45, plus 45. You're plussing 45 until you get to 360 to get all of your different angles. So right here, so when I say right here, I am in this, it looks like a printer. See this step that says 1? Right now, the way things are set up is this, being Blender, will export out 39 frames. That's a lot of frames. We don't need that many. So what we can do is take this step up to 2. So what this will do is every other frame will render out. So this will give you less frames. However, it will still give you a smooth animation. With the less frames, you'll be able to have more memory, because right here, we're going to have, for each angle, there's going to be around 20 frames. Okay, in Blender, there's multiple render engines. There is Eevee by default, which you start off with. There's what you're looking at is a viewport render. We could go to the actual render, which is to the right. That requires us to set up lights and all that. You can do that. However, I like for this tutorial, as well as I tend to like even not doing the tutorial, this viewport render, where this will render out what we see here. Okay, just so you know what it is, the other render engine is Cycles. Cycles is when you want to render things very accurate lighting. You get more effects in Cycles. The reason why you typically choose Eevee over Cycles is for rendering time. If you wanted to do a regular render, you would go to the upper left, go to render, then go to render animation. I don't want you to do that. It's important which button you go to. I want you to go to this button, to which window you go to. So there's this window and this window. In this window, what I want you to do is go to View, down near the bottom, and then you're going to select Viewport Render Animation. So I'm about to do this now, and that should give us what we want for this angle 1. So I'm selecting now. Okay, so we just rendered out the animation, and the result is here. So this is the animation right here. You can see all the different frames, and these frames should all be on a transparent background. And we can tell this is in angle 1, which is what we want. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go to this Z. we're just going to say, well, what's 45 plus 45? That's 90. So we enter in 90. Then what we do is go to that folder. This pops up. We can select if you're in Windows, you would just select up. You would go to angle 2, select accept, go over to this window over to the left. You can see the angle changed. And then we would go view, viewport, render animation. And now there we are. Okay, if we go back down again, now we go to angle 2, and here's our angle 2 animations. And we would just keep doing this. So Eevee lets us do it so fast. We'll go through it. So we select here. We select here. And this is 135. So our angle changes again. We go to the folder. We select up, angle 3, accept, over to the left, viewport, render animation. We select that. Okay, the next one is 180, so we go to Z. We set this to 180, press enter. This should be the fourth angle. So you would go up to there, select the fourth angle, select there, this is from before, and then you would just select view, viewport render animation. You would then go from here, go to 225, press enter, you go here, go to angle 5, select accept, and then you would go to view, viewport render animation. You come back to here, 270. This is angle 6, so you would go. So we have that one as well. You would select accept, go to view, viewport render animation. You would then come back to here. You will put in 315, press enter, go to the folder, go up, this will be 7, select accept. This one isn't done yet. It's just from editing. We have some of the frames done. So we're going to go to viewport render animation. So then we would go to here, and finally we arrive at 360. And then we select here, go up, angle 8, accept, go to the left, viewport render animation. And now we have that last angle rendered out. Okay, as far as the numbers for all of those angles, I'll leave this on the screen for you to see what those angles are. So if you want to take a screenshot of that, those are all the different angles. Okay, as far as the different angled sprites. Now the sprites are rendered out in 8 different directions. So now your character can move in 8 different directions. Okay, so once you have the sprites rendered out, you can load these into different game engines. You could also turn the individual sprites into sprite sheets. Okay guys, that's it for the tutorial. For all of those of you who like the videos on this channel, be share them. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And for those of you who are new to this channel, if you liked the videos on this channel and you would like to see more, please subscribe and thank you for viewing.